Now, what I'm about to show you here is one of these three different types of failover that Veeam supports. What we're about to see here is a planned failover, where the existing machine still is functioning here in the primary environment, but we want to, in a planned way, actually have the secondary machine take over for it for a short period of time. This is different from a failover over there on the left, because a failover assumes that the original machine is no longer operational. You only use a failover that is not a planned failover after that virtual machine becomes unavailable, so the VM has to fail first. Now, these two, failover and planned failovers, are usually done between machines in different sites. Sometimes you may have machines, however, in the same site, or you may find yourself actually migrating a machine to a different site. That's the case there for our third option, a permanent failover. Where this is different is that the source virtual machine will cease to exist as a replica after the virtual machine then takes over, the target machine takes over. And so these permanent failovers are exactly that. They are permanent, and you'll do them generally when you're only going in one direction with no intent on ever coming backwards. Back over here, we'll take another look here at our replica that we created. And I'm over here in the home view right here. We were earlier in an inventory view, but here in our home view, we can see under replicas the virtual machines that are currently ready. This is SQL1. And if I take a look here at the properties, we can see SQL1, here's the date when it actually did its last replication, what its restore point size is, what its status is, what its data size is over here, just some basic information about this virtual machine. Now for this, we have a couple of ways in which we can do this. One is by creating a replica plan. The other is just to do a simple plan failover of the virtual machine itself. Let me show you here first the way in which you can create a replica plan, but I'm not going to go through the actual replica plan. I'll show you the failover in a single instance failover here in just a second. So for this, let's start here by taking a look at these failover plans right here. These are designed to provide some additional logic to a failover. And so you can see here, here's our failover plan. I can put in a pre and post script here, and here I can put in the virtual machines. For these, as you can see, I can also order the virtual machines by setting a delay for when these virtual machines should be powered on. If you can imagine the classic situation where you've got a web server and a database and a mid-tier server, you probably want the database coming up first, followed by the mid-tier server, and followed by the web server. You can add in just a bit of delay here to support when these virtual machines power on, and then move them up and down here in the list to ensure that they power on in the correct order. Now, I'm only doing a single virtual machine here, so I don't need to go through all the extra effort here in adding in delays and ordering things. And so what I want to do here is just a simple planned failover of this virtual machine. For this, let's right-click over here and choose a planned failover right here. For this planned failover, we have a single restore point because we only did the replication here once. When we fail it over, we can provide a reason here. So what's the restore reason? This is a test, for example. Down here, I can choose next. And right here, if I choose finish, this will now go through the process of failing over this machine in a planned way. So not getting rid of the original machine or assuming it's powered off, but failing over this virtual machine over to the replica virtual machine there in the disaster recovery environment. Now, fast forwarding things just a bit so we can get to the other end of this process, I just want you to notice a couple of things that have occurred. Number one, I told you that the virtual machine would be shut down because this is a planned failover. But there's another piece that's a really important part of the fact that this is a planned replication. That is that we actually go through not one, but actually two here, incremental replication passes. So we're not necessarily replicating over to the last replication job of this virtual machine, but we're failing over to the right now at this exact moment snapshot of that virtual machine, even as it shuts down. So there is a very short period of time when the machine is shut down entirely until we bring it back on right down here. But that's a very short period of time in consideration to how long it takes to restore a virtual machine. We've also gone through applying the IP rules right over here and changing the IP address from 3.150 over to 0.150. Now, if you've ever done re-IPing before, you're aware that there are sometimes some cache issues with the local DNS cache on every machine. So one of the things we have to do here to then see this new IP address for this machine is to take a look at first ipconfig flush DNS. I do that a couple of times just because I'm superstitious, but let's go ahead and flush the DNS cache on this machine. And if I've done everything correctly, and if the new DNS server now includes the correct IP address because the machine is powered on long enough, I should be able to ping SQL1 right here, and yes, still get the 0.150 address that's there for that machine. I can further evidence this by coming back here to my environment. So this is my vCenter environment, where I can see now the SQL1 replica is currently powered on over in my DR data center, but the original SQL1 is powered off here on ESXi1. So indeed, we have successfully replicated this virtual machine over to the other side, and it is currently on the network and continuing to service its clients. So this is a good test here that indeed we have a good successful replication of a production workload to a disaster recovery site.